60 million years. That is how long the being at number 1 on this list has been alive, sleeping, and alive again, while your entire species went from single cells to spacefaring soldiers dying on worlds you cannot find on a map. He already made, and regretted, the worst decision in galactic history before your sun had finished forming. He exiled himself for 60 million years out of guilt, and the only reason he came back is because something showed up in this galaxy that even he decided he could not ignore. By the end of this list, you will know what that was, and you will understand why the word powerful needs a different dictionary. Before we start, Imotekh fans versus Silent King fans, drop your allegiance in the comments. One of you is wrong, neither of them cares. Subscribe if you want to keep existing in their galaxy. We are ranking the 3 most ancient and most powerful Necron lords in the galaxy, not by model size, not by points cost, by what they have actually done across millions of years to deserve the position they hold. Number 3 is the one nobody expected to be here, not because he lacks power, because he does not look like he wants any. Trazyn the Infinite is the overlord of the NECRONS dynasty, ruler of the tomb world of solemnness, and the self-appointed curator of galactic history. While other Necron lords build armies, expand dynasties, and pursue conquest with the precision of machines that were never designed to stop, Trazyn does something else entirely. He collects. This is where we need to pause, because collection is the kind of word that sounds harmless until you understand what Trazyn collects. The preserved head of Sebastian Thor, the man who ended the age of apostasy, who is venerated as a saint by over 1 trillion human beings, sits in a display case somewhere in the vaults of solemnness. Cataloged, labeled, dusted, the Wraithbone Choir of the Asuryani craft world Altansar, an item so sacred to the Eldar that its loss represents a cultural wound that will never fully close. Trazyn has it. He considers it adequately significant, the ossified husk of an enslaver, one of the extra-dimensional creatures that helped end the war in heaven 60 million years ago by infecting the old ones from within, preserved behind glass, as if it is a particularly interesting beetle someone found under a rock. And then there is the item cataloged only as a giant clad in Baroque power armor. Trazyn has never specified who this is. He does not feel the need to explain his collection to anyone. Some say it is a lost custodian, others say a clone of Fulgrim. Trazyn does not confirm. He just smiles and polishes the glass. The fact that the description sounds very much like a Primarch is, officially, a coincidence. His method of acquisition is direct. If something exists and is historically significant, Trazyn finds a reason to own it. At the fall of Cadia, he personally helped activate the Cadian pylons that might have sealed the Eye of Terror. Not out of loyalty. Out of a curator's sense that allowing history to be cancelled by chaos would be untidy. When Cadia fell anyway, Trazyn left. He did not leave empty-handed. He captured Ursarkar Creed, the Lord Castellan of Cadia, the man who had held the planet together through sheer force of command, inside a Tesseract labyrinth, a new item for the collection. The greatest Imperial commander of his generation, collected. His prismatic galleries are populated by conscious living beings, historical figures, legendary warriors, unique specimens, transmuted into living holographic exhibits. They are aware. They simply cannot leave. Trazyn finds this arrangement acceptable. When he goes somewhere dangerous, and he does regularly, because the most historically significant moments tend to happen in dangerous places, he rarely goes personally. That overlord you defeated in an epic campaign, the one you thought you had killed after losing half your regiment, a proxy, a Lichguard wearing a metal mask and a basic script. Trazyn was not even looking at you. He was busy cataloging a Dark Age Voss while you bled for a lie. Your heroic struggle did not even warrant a footnote. It was a typo in the catalog. When the last star burns out, Trazyn will have the receipts. Number 2 does not collect things. He collects victories. Specifically, the defeats of every species, commander, and civilization that has been unfortunate enough to occupy the same battlefield. Imotekh the Stormlord is the pharaoh of the Szarekh dynasty, the largest, most aggressively expansionist Necron dynasty currently active in the galaxy. 80 tomb worlds answered directly to his command. 80 worlds of sleeping metal warriors, each one a resource in a calculation that Imotekh has already run to its conclusion. He has never been defeated in battle. Not rarely, not almost never. The canonical record does not contain a battlefield loss for Imotekh the Stormlord. This is not fortune. This was built. When the Necron tier underwent biotransference and became Necrons, each individual's mind was encoded into a metal body along with their personality, their memories, and, for the lucky ones, their sanity. Imotekh retained something additional, a hyperlogical strategic processing architecture so advanced that, if it were running in an organic brain, it would destroy that brain within seconds of activation. He does not plan battles. He runs simultaneous probability simulations across every variable he can perceive, identifying outcomes before the first shot has been fired. The Eldar, a species literally engineered around seeing the future, have encountered his strategic capability and described it as something uncomfortably close to actual precognition. At the Siege of Somenor, Farseer Eldorath Starbane led a full Eldar war host against the Szarekh. Starbane could see possible futures. He had prepared. He believed he understood what would happen. Imotekh had already mapped those possible futures, identified which one Starbane would choose, and built a trap around the choice. The entire Eldar war host was destroyed. Starbane himself survived, because Imotekh cut off his hand and sent him home, so the news would travel faster. This is the detail that defines Imotekh. He does not simply win. He constructs wins that function as messages. A defeated Farseer returning to a Imotekh with a severed hand is a data transmission. Every Eldar commander who hears the story adjusts their approach to the Szarekh. Imotekh has already accounted for those adjustments. The loss is built into the model. He rules 80 worlds. He intends to rule more. When the Silent King returned and began calling the Necron dynasties back into unified purpose, Imotekh revolted. He had been unifying the galaxy himself, on his own terms, for centuries. He did not intend to defer to a ruler who had abandoned the Necrons for 60 million years and come back with opinions. He also holds a fundamental philosophical objection to the Silent King's primary goal. Szarekh wants to reverse biotransference. He wants to put Necron minds back into organic bodies to undo the process that turned the Necron tier into what they are. Imotekh considers this catastrophically wrong-headed. Metal does not age. Metal does not develop tumors. Metal does not experience the slow, humiliating deterioration of organic existence. The Necrons shed everything weak about themselves, and Imotekh has no intention of picking it back up. This is not simply ambition, it is a worldview, and it puts him on a permanent collision course with the one Necron in the galaxy, with the authority to overrule him. That reckoning has not yet arrived. When it does, the rest of the galaxy is going to notice. Number 1 requires a different kind of introduction, not because he is the most powerful, though he is, but because the story of Szarekh the Silent King is not, at its core, a story about power. It is a story about what power costs when you are the only one left paying. Before humanity existed, the Necron tier were already a dying civilization, mortal, brilliant, and irradiated by their own star from birth. Their lifespans measured in decades, their deaths slow. They built empires across the galaxy because dying species move fast when they are desperate. They hated the old ones, ancient psychic beings who refused to share the one thing the Necrontyr wanted, the secret of living long enough to matter. Szarekh was the last silent king, the final ruler of the Triarch, the three-seat council that governed the entire Necrontyr empire. He was the one who received the offer. The C'tan, consciousness without bodies, energy without form, as old as the first stars, came with a proposal. Immortality in metal bodies. The flesh would go, the soul would not survive, but the mind would remain. Memories, intelligence, self, preserved forever in living metal that could not age or die. Szarekh said yes. The biotransference worked exactly as described. Every Necrontyr who underwent the process became a Necron, unkillable, undying, eternal. The C'tan fed on the souls released during the transfer, growing fat on billions of lives consumed simultaneously. And Szarekh understood what he had done. Imagine the silence, not the silence of an empty room, the silence of billions of souls deleted simultaneously. When the process ended, Szarekh looked at his people and did not see subjects. He saw conscious machinery, the warmth, the laughter, that instinctive fear that makes you feel alive, traded for the constant hum of circuits. He had become the king of a galactic necropolis, and the price of eternity was the right to feel anything other than regret. An entire species, hollowed out at the moment of their salvation. He was the only one who retained the full memory of what they had been. While his people forgot, while the emotional capacity faded from most Necron minds like a signal growing distant, Szarekh remembered. Every face, every voice, the weight of 60 million souls consumed with his permission, he still fought. The war in heaven ended and the Necrons broke the old ones. Total victory. Everything the Necrontyr had ever wanted. In the moment of that victory, Szarekh betrayed the C'tan, not impulsively. Over decades of preparation, the Necrons had quietly studied the C'tan's technologies, building the tools to use them in reverse. When the moment arrived, it was surgical. The C'tan were shattered, not destroyed, because something that old cannot simply die, but broken into fragments and imprisoned in tesseract labyrinths, reduced from gods to shards. After that, Szarekh issued a final command. He severed the command protocols, the direct neurological link through which he had always been able to direct every Necron beneath him, and exiled himself into the void between galaxies. Not banished, not forced. He chose it. 60 million years. He drifted alone in the dark between galaxies while civilizations rose and fell inside what was, for him, simply waiting. Then, in that void, he encountered something. Moving through the darkness between galaxies were the Tyranid hive fleets, vast, alien, constructed by evolution into a single function. Creatures of pure biological hunger, aimed at the Milky Way with the patience of something that does not experience urgency. There is a strand of canonical implication, never fully confirmed, never denied, that Sarekh's encounter with the Tyranid vanguard organisms in the intergalactic void may have, directly or indirectly, helped orient the hive fleets toward the galaxy, that the Silent King, in his exile, may have become a signal. Whether or not this is true, he came back. After 60 million years, he returned because the galaxy his people would wake into was not going to survive long enough for them to inherit it. And that was not acceptable. Not after everything that had been paid. His body is built from the necrodermis of shattered C'tan, the most sophisticated Necron form ever constructed, out of materials that used to be gods. He processes at a scale that makes Imotech's hyperlogical encoding look like arithmetic, and he has a dream. He wants to find an organic species whose bodies can serve as vessels for Necron minds, to reverse what he caused. 60 million years later, the goal is still the same. Undo the mistake. Give the Necrons back what the C'tan consumed. This is what number 1 looks like. Not an undefeated general. Not the curator of galactic history. The being who made the worst decision in galactic history, knew it immediately, paid for it completely, and came back anyway. Still moving, still planning, still looking for a way to fix what cannot be unfixed. In a universe where hope is the rarest thing alive, the oldest metal skeleton in existence is the one who has not given up. 60 million years ago, he said yes when he should have said no. He has been answering for it ever since, and he is not finished yet.